Today, we dive into 10 of the most polluted and environmentally challenged countries in the world, emphasizing the tragic consequences of unchecked environmental degradation. Each of these countries faces unique challenges, from dangerous levels of air and water contamination to environmental destruction caused by industry and human neglect. But one of the most surprising cases will be revealed toward the end of this video, and it's a story you won't want to miss. Pollution doesn't just affect the environment. It drastically impacts people's lives, their health, and even their survival. Keep watching as we expose the critical environmental crises affecting millions across the globe. And don't forget to subscribe to World Marvels to stay updated on similar topics that inform and enlighten. Welcome to World Marvels. 10 Women Facing Sanitation Crises. At number 10, we focus on one of the most shocking aspects of environmental mismanagement: how women are directly affected by the lack of basic sanitation. In some of the world's poorest regions, women are forced to relieve themselves outdoors due to the absence of proper toilets. The lack of sanitation is not just a matter of inconvenience but a direct threat to their health and safety. Defecating outdoors exposes them to diseases, risks of assault, and intense social stigma. In several countries, rural areas are particularly hard hit by this issue. Without access to sanitary facilities, women often have to wait until nighttime to go outside, increasing their vulnerability. This sanitation crisis disproportionately affects women, who have to endure the indignity and danger of relieving themselves in public, a basic human necessity that is often taken for granted in more developed parts of the world. It's not just about dignity, it's about life-threatening risks. Lack of sanitation is a major cause of diseases like cholera, dysentery, and other waterborne illnesses, and women, especially young girls, are left with little protection. Governments and non-profit organizations have worked to address this issue, but the progress is slow. This silent tragedy is unfolding in plain sight, affecting millions of women around the globe. 9. Mining and pollution in Peru. Peru, a country rich in natural beauty and cultural heritage, holds a dark secret. While its majestic landscapes attract tourists from around the world, its environment is slowly being poisoned by the country's highly profitable mining industry. For decades, mining companies have extracted metals such as copper, lead, and zinc from Peru's soil, but the consequences have been dire. In places like La Arroya, a town once prosperous due to its copper smelting operations, toxic pollution has rendered the area uninhabitable. Metal smelting has caused a deadly buildup of toxins like lead, mercury, and arsenic in the soil and water, harming the local population. The most disturbing impact of this pollution is on children. Studies have shown that nearly 99% of the children in La Arroya have dangerously high levels of lead in their blood, leading to long-term health problems, including cognitive impairments and developmental delays. The rivers that were once sources of life have turned into poisoned waterways, flowing through rural communities and spreading contamination far beyond the industrial zones. Despite the environmental damage, mining remains the backbone of Peru's economy. The profits are too significant to be ignored, and the government has struggled to regulate the industry effectively. As a result, the mining industry continues to pollute the land, leaving irreversible scars on Peru's ecosystem and its people. 8. Mongolia's march toward desertification. Mongolia, a country historically associated with vast grasslands and a nomadic way of life, is now rapidly losing its green pastures. Climate change and human activities are driving the country toward an alarming rate of desertification. Nearly 70% of Mongolia's land is now at risk of desertification, as overgrazing and mining operations strip the soil of its nutrients. Once fertile land now turns to dust, and strong Siberian winds carry that dust across the country, creating massive dust storms that blanket towns and villages. Mining, particularly for coal and precious minerals, has worsened Mongolia's environmental problems. While the mining industry has brought economic benefits to certain regions, the environmental cost is staggering. Rivers that once provided water for agriculture and livestock are now contaminated with heavy metals, making them unsafe for use. The air quality in many towns has plummeted due to mining dust, leaving people to suffer from respiratory diseases. Mongolia's nomadic herders, who have relied on the land for centuries, are now struggling to maintain their way of life. The once lush grasslands that supported their livestock are disappearing, forcing many to abandon their traditional livelihoods. As desertification continues to spread, Mongolia's environmental future looks bleak, and its people are left to adapt to an increasingly hostile landscape. 7. The slums of Kenya. At number 7 is Kenya, a country known for its incredible wildlife and scenic beauty. But behind this facade lies a grim reality. Millions of people live in extreme poverty in urban slums, where pollution and unsanitary living conditions are the norm. Kibera, located in Nairobi, is one of the largest informal settlements in Africa, home to over 2 million residents who live in cramped, makeshift shelters. There is no clean water, no proper sanitation, and no waste management in these areas. In Kibera, it's common for entire families to share a single room with no access to a proper bathroom. Most of the residents rely on flying toilets, where they defecate in plastic bags and throw them into the streets. This practice leads to piles of garbage and waste accumulating in the alleys, creating breeding grounds for disease. Children play in the contaminated streets, risking exposure to dangerous pathogens. Efforts have been made by both the government and international organizations to improve sanitation in these slums, but the sheer scale of the problem makes it difficult to solve. Kibera is just one of many slums in Kenya where people are trapped in a cycle of poverty and environmental degradation. While Kenya's economy has grown in recent years, the benefits have not reached its most vulnerable populations, leaving millions to live in unsanitary and unsafe conditions. 6. Nigeria's oil spill catastrophe. Nigeria's oil wealth has come at a tremendous environmental cost. The Niger Delta, a once lush and biodiverse region, is now one of the most polluted places on Earth due to decades of oil spills. Nigeria is Africa's largest oil producer, but poor infrastructure, corruption, and sabotage have led to thousands of oil spills that have poisoned the land and water. The oil has seeped into rivers and wetlands, killing wildlife and destroying the livelihoods of local communities who rely on fishing and farming to survive. Between 2011 and 2021, there were over 9,800 recorded oil spill incidents in the Niger Delta, resulting in the loss of 466,000 barrels of oil. The pollution has rendered much of the land infertile, and the air in many areas is filled with toxic fumes from burning oil. In 1998, a massive oil pipeline explosion near the village of Jesse killed nearly 200 people and left the surrounding area in ruins. The pipeline had been deliberately sabotaged, highlighting the dangerous relationship between poverty, corruption, and environmental destruction. Despite Nigeria's oil wealth, the people living in the Niger Delta remain among the poorest in the country. The environmental degradation has robbed them of their primary sources of income, forcing many to turn to illegal activities to survive. International efforts to clean up the oil spills have been slow and ineffective, leaving the Niger Delta's residents to endure a toxic legacy. 5. Congo's mineral curse. The Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, is home to some of the richest mineral deposits in the world, including cobalt, gold, and diamonds. While these resources are critical to modern technology, their extraction has come at a high cost to the environment and the people of Congo. The mining industry, largely controlled by foreign corporations, has led to widespread deforestation, water contamination, and air pollution. In the Kasai region, mining operations have polluted the rivers with toxic waste, killing fish and destroying the ecosystems that local communities depend on. In 2021, a spill from a mining operation contaminated a major river, resulting in hundreds of deaths and a public health crisis. The local population, already living in extreme poverty, suffered greatly as their only source of clean water became undrinkable. Mining in the DRC has also fueled conflict, as various armed groups vie for control of the lucrative mines. These conflicts have displaced millions of people and led to widespread human rights abuses. The wealth generated from Congo's mineral resources rarely benefits its people, as corruption and exploitation continue to plague the country. The environmental destruction caused by mining has left large parts of the Congo devastated, with little hope for recovery. 4. Somalia's coastal devastation. Somalia is a country ravaged by years of conflict, but few realize the environmental toll it has also faced. In the 1980s and 1990s, foreign corporations began dumping toxic and nuclear waste off the coast of Somalia, devastating its marine ecosystems. The waste, which included radioactive materials, poisoned the waters and killed off much of the local fish population. Fishermen who once relied on the sea for their livelihood found their waters empty and dangerous. The environmental destruction off Somalia's coast pushed many fishermen to turn to piracy as a means of survival. What began as a desperate attempt to feed their families quickly turned into a global problem, as Somali pirates started hijacking ships passing through the busy shipping lanes near their coastline. The once thriving coastal communities are now hubs of criminal activity, their environment and economy shattered by decades of neglect. Efforts to clean up Somalia's coast have been slow, hindered by the country's ongoing political instability. The toxic legacy of foreign exploitation continues to haunt Somalia, with little hope of recovery in the near future. 3. India's polluted cities and rivers. India's rapid industrialization and population growth have come at a steep environmental cost. The country is home to some of the most polluted cities in the world, with New Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai frequently topping the list for poor air quality. In these cities, the air is thick with smog from factories, vehicles, and open burning, leading to respiratory illnesses and premature deaths among the population. India's rivers are equally polluted. The Ganges and Yamuna, two of the most sacred rivers in Hinduism, are also among the most contaminated waterways on the planet. Industrial waste, untreated sewage, and agricultural runoff have turned these rivers into toxic streams that pose a serious health risk to the millions of people who rely on them for drinking, bathing, and farming. Government programs have been launched to clean up the rivers, but progress has been slow, and the pollution continues to worsen. Despite these challenges, India is making efforts to combat pollution. Renewable energy projects, such as solar and wind power, are being developed across the country, and stricter regulations on industrial emissions have been put in place. However, the scale of India's environmental problems is immense, and it will take years of concerted effort to make a significant impact. 2. Bangladesh's overpopulation and pollution. Bangladesh, one of the most densely populated countries in the world, is facing an environmental crisis driven by overpopulation and rapid urbanization. The country's water resources are severely contaminated, with untreated sewage, industrial waste, and agricultural chemicals being dumped into rivers and canals on a daily basis. The result is a public health disaster, with widespread outbreaks of waterborne diseases such as cholera and dysentery. Many communities in Bangladesh lack access to clean drinking water, and the country's infrastructure is ill-equipped to handle the growing population. In rural areas, people rely on polluted rivers for their daily water needs, while in the cities, overburdened sewer systems frequently overflow, spreading waste and contamination. The government has made efforts to improve sanitation and clean water access, but the sheer scale of the problem has made progress slow. Overpopulation is one of the biggest challenges facing Bangladesh. The country's limited resources are being stretched to the breaking point, and environmental degradation is worsening as more people flock to the cities in search of work. Without significant intervention, Bangladesh's environmental crisis will continue to grow, threatening the health and well-being of its people. 1. Environmental collapse at the top. Topping the list is a country whose environmental crisis is so severe that it threatens not just the people living there, but the entire region. Desertification, deforestation, and pollution have decimated the land, leaving millions of people without access to clean water, food, or shelter. Industrial activities have poisoned the soil and water, and the government's inability to address the crisis has left the country on the brink of collapse. Despite being rich in natural resources, corruption and mismanagement have prevented any meaningful progress in combating the environmental destruction. International aid has been slow to arrive, and the country's people are left to fend for themselves in increasingly desperate conditions. The environmental collapse at the top of our list serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of neglecting our planet's ecosystems. Throughout this video, we've taken a look at the environmental challenges faced by some of the world's most polluted countries. From the toxic oil spills in Nigeria to the overpopulation crisis in Bangladesh, these are issues that require immediate global attention. Which of these facts shocked you the most? Have you been to any of these countries, or would you visit them despite the challenges? Let us know in the comments and share your thoughts on what should be done to address these environmental crises. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to World Marvels for more insights into the most pressing global issues. Stay curious, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.